Story 1. I think my doctor boyfriend has been dosing me to make me forget things. This is in North Texas. Hey, so I must apologize if this post is jumbled a bit. I started typing it in Word yesterday before my date and forgot about it before finishing it today. I think my boyfriend has been secretly dosing me for a while now and is gaslighting me. I know this is going to be hard to explain, but I have been having gaps in memory that I have been explaining away as being tired or overworked or whatever else. I was going to ask my boyfriend about it since he's a doctor, but then I started to notice that this seems to happen when I go on dates with him. I know it must be crazy, but I've woken up with dried semen on my breast several times with no memory of the night before. I know it's him well, I won't get into specifics, but he likes that kind of thing more than other guys would. The first time it happened was when we were drinking, and I wrote it off as too much to drink. We got drunk and had spicy time all the time, so it's not a big deal to me. But then there were a few times when I know we were not drinking. I decided to break up with him over it, only to suddenly find myself on a date with him a few days later. I had not yet had the conversation to break up with him, but planned on it next time I talked with him. I remember being at the restaurant, but nothing before that. My car and his car were in the parking lot too, so I was confused. I decided to play along when he asked me to come back to his place. After 3 days at his place, I remembered everything, so I started to trust him again. Knowing he was an ENT, I know it won't be his forte, but he is a doctor. I was going to ask him about my issues when he randomly pointed to these red bumps on my thigh and said I should be treating those sores. I had completely forgotten they were there. These little red bumps that look like needle injections that got infected. I got so freaked out he mentioned them that I decided to leave. The next day he came over to check on me, and I remember waking up in bed with more dried semen on my chest. Then, today, he met me for lunch saying we had agreed to meet. I never agreed with him and would never want to. He does this all the time, saying we agreed to do something I have no memory of. I am sick and tired of it and want him punished. This has started to affect my work life as well, as I start to get paranoid when I see a boss walk into the room after making eye contact with me. I get paranoid that they're about to fire me. My friend also states that I've been acting strangely and out of character. I've even begun to lose sleep and sleepwalk when I do. Is there a way to have blood work done to see what kind of substance he's using on me? I do not want the police to blow me off and push me away as some crazy lady, so I want to be damn sure when I go to the police. That is just shocking. From a male perspective, I mean, I haven't had anything like this happen to me. It's probably a more common thing for women and the kind of fear that they have to face, which is horrifying. Definitely don't be alone, though. Have a friend hang out with you that you know you can trust to make sure everything is going all right. I would never be alone with this person ever again. Ever. Just make no contact whatsoever. Story 2. Restaurant employee amuses himself, delights me and my kids. Yesterday, I decided to take my kids to an international chain restaurant. In this restaurant, the kids' meal comes with ice cream, but you have to serve yourself. That was a problem because there weren't any bowls beside the ice cream machine. So I thought, I know what to do. I'll simply ask an employee for some bowls. And that's just what I did. So he turns to look at the vast array of bowls behind him, some sauce-sized, some entree salad-sized, and many in between. And we realize that neither of us knows what size the kids' ice cream is intended to be. So he thought, I know what to do. I'll simply ask a manager. And he says, hey boss, what do we put the kids' ice cream in? Without turning around, the boss says, a frackin' bowl, what do you think? Yeah, but what size bowl? The boss, with his inimitable charm, tact, and grace, says, "Just fracking give him a bowl." The employee looked back at the bowls, and then I saw him get a big grin over his face. "I apologize about that, sir. I think it's probably one of these," he says, as he hands me two of the largest bowls they have in the restaurant, practically giggling with glee. My children were similarly delighted. The manager walked by when we were halfway through and made a noise like a startled opossum, but said no actual words. Definitely going back there. You probably won't get that same size bowl, but yeah, the employee did everything to make sure he got everything right, and the boss told him what needed to be done. He has to make the decision, and he made it. I don't think the boss has any leg to stand on in any kind of repercussion. Just not. I'd try and get there again before it's too late, though, to see if the boss actually did make the rationalization or make the decision about what size bowl to use, finally. Try and get another one of those big ones in. Story 3. Military spouse accuses me of cheating on my husband with my husband. I've been living in Japan for a little over 2 years with my husband. He was born here, and we decided to move to his hometown. It's a small city, but there's enough to do without getting bored. I'd describe us as an AMWF couple. Asian man, white female, for those who don't know. It's not so common in Western countries, and it can feel like we're some rare shiny Pokemon as AMWF in rural Japan. Lots of staring, occasional secret picture, or even small chats if an old lady is brave enough to approach us. It can feel uncomfortable eating at a restaurant because kids will turn around in their seat and stare at us the whole time with an open fish mouth. Coincidentally, there's a small U.S. military base located in the city. The closer you are downtown, the more American families you see. I'm constantly mistaken for being military by Americans and Japanese, which is understandable. Besides myself, I know only 5 other interracial marriages here. It's always locals who ask about my American husband when I'm out alone, which I respond in Japanese, "Watashi no oto wa Nihonjin desu. Koko ni sunde imasu." My husband is Japanese and I live here, or something along those lines. Americans never ask about my marriage, as when we're together in public, we do abnormal couples behavior, such as holding hands. No, couples rarely hold hands in public, let alone say "I love you." We don't go downtown too often since it's all pay to park, and it's a nightmare to find a place. It was a beautiful, warm day for the first time in months, but we decided to battle for a spot and walk around the shops. The crowd was heavy since the weather was great and winter was ending. The season for new American families to move here just finished, so I'm sure this was many people's first time to leisurely walk and shop outside. We find a parking spot and made our way to the outside shops. Of course, we're holding hands and casually talking and laughing. Wow! I hear this from an American woman about 10 feet behind us. You should know that a Japanese stereotype against Americans is that we're rudely and obnoxiously loud. And this wow was loud enough for me to turn my head around at the noise. She was with 2 other moms who had like 3 kids each. They were staring at me, but perhaps we just accidentally had eye contact at the right time. "Seriously, another little homewrecker doing this in public?" "Chill, woman. You're so loud even I can hear you." We find a table nearby at the Starbucks outside. We're enjoying our drinks when the same group of women approached us with their strollers in tow. They definitely had some sort of purpose with something to say to us. Let's call her Ona, woman in Japanese. Ona: "Excuse me, but you need to keep whatever you're doing in your messed up home. Doing that in public in front of families to see is disgusting and immoral. My kids don't need to see such a bad display of marriage." I'm so confused, as was my husband, who can speak English. Who knew drinking coffee outside was a crime against humanity and marriage? Me: "I'm sorry, what did we do?" Ona: "You know exactly what you're doing."
Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.
She points to my wedding ring. Me. No, I don't. Ona. Oh, good deity, does your husband know about this? Is he on a ship right now? That's so like a dependopotamus. Her friends laugh. In case you don't speak military, a dependopotamus is slang for a military wife who stays at home all day, doesn't clean, uses their spouse as an ATM, and looks like Jabba the Hutt. It dawns on me. She thinks I'm a military spouse and I'm cheating on my American husband. I started laughing because she's suggesting I'm cheating on my husband with my husband. Me, this is my spouse. I'm actually not part of the military community and have a Japanese visa. Ona looks at my significant other up and down. The two women behind her apologize, but the Ona didn't believe it. Ona, no one would voluntarily want to live in this little town. Nice lie, but you're not representing the military community. You make all of us wives look like hussies. Who is your husband and what's his rank? Also, I need your dependent ID. My husband is a high rank, so he'll make sure your husband is aware of your identity. She pulls out her phone to probably type my response. I'm offended since this is actually a nice place to live and very open to foreigners. Me, look, my husband's name is Ray. Not his real name, I don't want to reveal personal info. And he's sitting right here. I'm not going to show you my military ID since I don't have one. And you're not the police. As proof, you can obviously see our wedding bands match, and here's a picture. I show her my phone screen, which is of us in traditional Japanese clothes on our wedding day. Her eyes became huge at the picture. Her two friends and their spawn have already started walking away. Ona. Why are you in a relationship with him? You should be in a normal relationship and start having a family with American kids. She says some other statements which I'd consider racist against the Asian race. It's so ironic because we're in Japan, and she's fussing about me being married to a Japanese man. My husband has been quiet throughout the whole exchange and says to me we should go. I agree and stood up. Me, stop. The things you're saying are extremely offensive. I was part of the military community myself some years ago, and what you're doing is against spousal conduct. I think that's the husband speaking. She smirked. Go ahead and tell people what I did then. My high-ranking husband is an E7, and everything will be swept under the rug no matter what happens. You can't touch me. So that's what I did. Later that day, I run into my friend who works on the base, and she's well known in the community for being one of the main event coordinators. I don't miss this chance to comply with Ona's demand, and explain to my friend about the exchange and how it made my husband extremely uncomfortable with her remarks. She asked me if this person looked like so-and-so, which I said yes. My friend rolls her eyes. Friend, she just arrived a couple months ago and is already causing problems with rumors and drama. Looks like we have a racist, too. I'll make sure what she said is passed on. It's been half a year later, and I didn't hear anything about Ona again since I distanced myself from making military friends here. I've only been in my new city for a little over 2 years and experienced more drama from military families than I have my whole high school career. That is, until now. Last week, I ran into my friend who's getting ready to leave back to the United States. We had a little discussion about her moving and my family planning and dropped a bombshell. Friend, do you remember Ona, who accused you of cheating on your non-existent military spouse and called your husband a racist name? Me. Of course. I haven't heard anything from her since. Friend. Well, I mentioned we were already having problems with her not long after she got here. I told my boss that there's a person who was bothering and threatening civilians and asking for IDs, which isn't allowed for someone with her status. My boss was extremely interested after I mentioned her name because Ona was scheduled for an interview in my department. I suggested we look at her social media accounts from her past behavior because we don't tolerate racism. It was easy to find her Twitter and Facebook, particularly Facebook since we have many mutual friends. Her SNS was shocking. While she set her Facebook to private, her Twitter was littered with malicious tweets and retweets. This includes racism, slang for many nationalities, colorful language, and using her husband's military rank to bully others. She made it very clear that she wants to see her current city burned to the ground, and why would anyone want to learn Japanese since it sounds terrible? We printed some of the most extreme things she posted, and we still invited her to the interview. Oh, and did I mention my boss is Japanese? So she comes into the interview, which I was a part of. I asked 3 good things about her, which is, she says, dependent, gets things done, and friendly. My boss just looked at her for a second before he pulled out her tweets and asked her to explain how she can be friendly and serve the local community if she hates it so much. Ona was floored and said someone hacked into her account, despite there being at least 3 years of slanderous tweets. We thanked her for coming in and said we can't accept an employee with this conduct. As far as I know, she's still not working because some spouses found her Twitter not long after the interview and was shared in all departments. No one will touch her application now. Me. So all of this was discovered because I told you about her accusations? Friend. Yes. Oh, and she's kind of an outcast socially right now because she cheated on her husband a couple months ago. There you have it, folks. Because one person couldn't mind their own business, they lost a potential job and had their social media exposed. Super ironic since she became the dependopotamus and adulterer, the same thing she was accusing me of. I've heard about these types of wives that think because their husband has a certain rank, they also are prone to the perks and respect of the rank, which just so entitled. Also, I've traveled a lot overseas, and it's really opened my eyes to other cultures and the way other people live. It's just really amazing to me to see someone who's traveling to another country and just still has a very closed-minded, reactionary mindset towards other cultures. I'm glad that she got what she deserved.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.